What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and today we're here for a book review, and this is going to be a non-spoiler book review. And after like 2 months and a week or so, I'm finally here to talk about The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 1 out of supposedly 10 books in his Stormlight archive series. This is my first time ever reading not only this book, but anything by Brandon Sanderson. I went into this series completely blind. I knew absolutely nothing about it whatsoever as far as the content and the world and the story was concerned. This ended up being the biggest book I've ever read. This is the mass market paperback edition, and it clocked in at 1,252 pages. I think the biggest book before this one was Storm of Swords from A Song of Ice and Fire. That one was like 1,100 something. So definitely don't drop this book on your foot. You'll break every entire bone in your foot. But seriously, I did really enjoy this book, and the reason I read it was because I had a bet with Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. At some point, I said that I could read all 4 of the current novels in 1 year time span. Leslie said I could not do that. So she said, "You want to bet on that?" And I said, "Yeah, let's bet on it." So here we are. I wasn't really planning to read these this soon, but we've done it. We finished book 1, and I'm here to talk about it in a non-spoiler way. I'm not going to hold this big book up the whole time because I'll get carpal tunnel. I'm going to do non-spoilers. I'm going to talk about sort of broad stroke things, nothing about specific plot points or specific things that happen with characters. Just kind of general strokes. I have read fantasy before. This isn't my first fantasy novel. I've read all of Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire and The Dark Tower and others. So I'm not a noob when it comes to fantasy. I'm a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan as well. But one thing I really enjoyed about this book that felt unique about this book was the world building. It felt different. It really felt like something I hadn't really encountered before in the past. We're on the continent is what it looks like. This is just a little map, but I don't know how much you'll be able to tell. But it's a big continent surrounded by ocean on all sides, and it felt really unique. It felt different. A lot of fantasy draws the roots from medieval Europe. A lot of it's inspired by that. This one didn't necessarily feel like that. It didn't feel like castles and keeps and dragons and princesses and towers and whatnot. It sort of broke the mold when it came to that. The world, Roshar, felt almost alien in a way, almost a bit of sci-fi. There is no sci-fi here. It's no aliens or spaceships or anything like that. It really felt like, and I mentioned this to Leslie, and I don't know if I'm way off base or not, but it felt like at least the parts of the world that we spent a lot of time in this book felt like at one point they had been submerged under the ocean, and maybe the ocean's drained away and this is the bottom of the ocean essentially. It felt alien in that sense. In real life, in our world, you go down to the bottom of the ocean, it feels like you're on a different planet as far as the landscape is concerned and the wildlife, the flora, fauna, and whatnot. And that's how this world felt. We have these giant creatures called chols, which are basically huge hulking crabs that pull your wagons. You have these things called chasm fiends, which are also like these giant sort of crab-like creatures. You have what people have as pets, basically their version of a dog, called axe hounds, and they have these carapaces and these antennas sticking up. It just felt alien in a way. There's sections of the world where the grass, you don't just trample it down. When you get close to it, it actually sucks down into the ground. And when you go, it comes back up almost like coral in a way. So all that was really unique and fascinating. I really dug the world building. The world itself, Roshar, from, I believe it's the east, it's really dominated by these things called high storms. No one really knows where they come from. They always come from east to west, and there's just they're really powerful, deadly storms. The world itself, as far as the vegetation, has all grown and adapted to these storms. They lean certain ways. grass pulls into the ground when the storms come through so it doesn't get ripped up. The houses and cities and villages and whatnot, they're constructed in ways to deal with these storms. They're built against mountains where the wind sort of blows over. They're slanted in a way where the wind will blow this way over them instead of against the wall. So really these storms themselves have affected how this whole world sort of has been constructed, how everything interacts with these storms, and they blow from east to west, and there's this power in the storm. The money, the currency is called, oh, I can't remember now. They're just gems, basically. It'll be like an emerald or a ruby or whatnot, a diamond, and you leave it out in a high storm, and sort of this magical energy is infused into the currency. They use it for light sources, they use it for currency and whatnot, and that sort of plays into the magic system as well. They use this stormlight from these storms in the magic system, and I really dug the magic. We get introduced to that in the prologue. I believe, is it the preface or the prologue? Yeah, the prologue. We get introduced to the magic, and it was sort of a mix of the Matrix with the Force from Star Wars in a way. It almost felt like Neo was mixed with the Jedi. It was really action-packed type of magic. It's different than Dungeons and Dragons. There weren't really wizards or spellcasters, but just the stormlight that they are able to use. They sort of infuse themselves, draw upon the power of the stormlight, and can do things like the Matrix, run on walls, like the Force, move objects with stormlight. It was really cool. It was very cinematic, the action was. I really dug that. And also, if you don't necessarily have magical abilities, on here, on the cover, some people have things called shard plate and shard swords, I believe they're called. And basically they draw on the power of the stormlight as well. Your armor's infused with it, so you can run quicker, you can jump farther, you're a bit stronger. It doesn't really give you abilities, it enhances the abilities you already have. And then these shard blades that they have, that's what they're called. I really liked how that would kill people. You know, it would just pass through flesh and blood and bone. It wouldn't actually cut you. But say it went through, a shard blade cut through your arm, from here up, your arm would just be dead. And if it cuts you like through your heart or your neck or whatever, your eyes would sort of burn out and turn to smoke. It was really a bit brutal, and I like the brutal stuff, so I really dug that. But you could also use the sword, and just cuts through stone like butter. It kills people as well, but when it does, it doesn't cut them in half. It's almost like cutting their soul in a way, was kind of how I took it. That was really cool. I really dug they're basically, a person in shard plate with a shard blade can just run through everyone else. Their armor deflects all their weapons. Their blade just cuts through everybody else's blades and flesh like it's butter. It was really cool. As far as the characters, I felt like we were sort of following three main characters. We did get perspectives from quite a few other ones. I felt like our core cast were, there's three of them. There was Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar. Those were what I felt were the three main characters here. I think Kaladin was probably my favorite out of the three. And he was sort of the chosen one trope with fantasy, but it was done a bit differently where it didn't feel as tropey as maybe it really was. Shallan, she was more of a scholarly type, and with her stuff was the slowest in my opinion. The pacing in the book was one of the downfalls of it, in my opinion. It was sort of all over the place. You'd have something really fast-paced and action-oriented, and then it'd sort of dull down, go back up, and go down. So the pacing was a bit off, but you'll kind of have that when you have so many different characters and storylines, and they're all doing different things. They're not all going to be just super fast-paced. And then Dalinar, we have him. He's sort of this high prince, this war general out on the Shattered Plains, and they're fighting this battle of vengeance and retribution. I really liked all three, but Kaladin was probably my favorite character. There was also some bits of religion at play. I really liked that. It didn't overpower the story. It wasn't the main focus of the story, but it was there, especially with sort of Dalinar's storyline. There's the Almighty. I can't remember if they actually call him the Stormfather or if I'm pulling that from something else. But there was the Almighty and then his heralds, which for me sort of was a reflection of Jesus and his apostles. And it plays a lot, like I said, into Dalinar's story. He's this warlord, this high prince. He's trying to unite his people because he sort of knows, and it's hinted at throughout the book, that there's a greater storm coming. Something that is more powerful than these high storms, sort of this end-all, be-all storm that is going to destroy everything. And it's sort of his quest. He's trying to unite everyone together to fight against this coming battle, this coming storm, this coming enemy that we as the readers and he as a character don't really know what is coming. I feel like that's what the whole series is going to be building towards. Probably all these characters are going to unite in some way to fight whatever is coming. If they make it that far, I don't know. You know, Kaladin, Shallan. There's another one I didn't really mention. He didn't have as much story content in the books as everyone else. Szeth, S-Z-E-T-H. He's this assassin. His stuff was really awesome. He has a lot of stuff in the different interludes. It seems like these sort of main four characters might get mixed up and joined together. I don't really know, to fight whatever is coming. Something evil is on the way. But overall, I did really, really enjoy it. I'm excited to see what happens with book 2 and where the characters are going to go from there. I don't remember if I already mentioned this or not, but I learned something, the Sanderlanche or the Sanderson Avalanche, where sort of your story builds up throughout the whole book, and then near the end, everything just goes 0 to 60 like an avalanche, just all slides forward. Everyone had a super satisfying ending to the book with where they started out to where they ended up. Even Shallan, who I felt like her parts were a bit slow, had a very satisfying ending to her arc in this first book. And I'm really excited to learn more about each individual character and what they've been going through and the world itself and this coming threat that we don't really know much about. It's all very interesting. We got some sort of revelations and stuff at the end, possibly. I don't really know if the revelations that the characters found out are true or if that's just what they found out so far. But it's all definitely interesting. I'm excited to see what happens next. If you are into fantasy and you haven't read this and have been maybe on the fence, you don't know if you would enjoy it or not, I highly suggest you pick it up and try it out. The characters were great. The action when it was there was awesome. The magic system was unique and different and very cinematic and action-packed. I really, really enjoyed basically everything about the book. It did have a few pacing issues here and there, but I'm able to look past that as an overall story. You know, if this is book 1 out of 10, I'm okay with it being a little slow to start out so we can get introduced to the world and these characters and then go on this journey with them. So that's been my non-spoiler, rambly review for A Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. If you've read the other 3 books in the series, please don't leave any spoilers down in the comments. I don't want to be spoiled. I'm going to start reading book 2, Words of Radiance, in April. Probably take about 2 months to finish that one, and we'll move on from there. But I'm really excited to go on this journey and learn more about this world and these characters, see where we all end up. So yeah, that's been my non-spoiler review. I'm probably going to do a spoiler review video as well and talk more in depth about some specific plot points and whatnot. Things I liked, things I didn't. Maybe some predictions I have. I don't know. We shall see. But that has been my 4-star review for The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.